Is our democracy thriving? Well, to help us discuss the significance of June 12th, I'm joined now by Patrick Utomi. He's a Nigerian professor of political economy and a former presidential candidate. He joins us virtually. But with me in the studio is Tonye, former APC Rivers State gubernatorial candidate and an advocate for good governance. Gentlemen, thank you so much for giving us your time. I'll start with you, sir. 26 years of unbroken democracy. Have we used it well?
I would say that it's work in progress. The first aspect of it is that the fact that we have 26 years, we have to take it. But have we gotten to where we ought to be? I believe we are not. Can Nigeria do a lot better with democracy? I believe that we can. But are we on the right path as far as the progress to democratic rule is? I would say yes.
Okay, Prof, let me come to you. I would want to ask where we are at with democracy, but of course, I don't know, but I believe you will share a bit of optimism as well. However, I want to take on an aspect of the president's speech. There's been a lot of concern about the country sliding into a one-party state, and the president took time out to address that concern. However, is it really possible for the party and the president to convince Nigerians that the intentions are genuine when it seems like the president is taking pleasure in the disarray of other political parties? How appropriate is it for that comment to come on a presidential speech on a democracy day when you juxtapose that to his assertions that he wants, there is not going to be a one-party state. He is working to ensure that does not happen. And then right above that, he says he takes pleasure in the disarray of other parties.
Well, you know, all these speculations about this person's conduct and that person's conduct, they don't really get to the heart of the matter. What we need to deal with is that there is a crisis of elite in Nigeria. What shocks me is that our country is in very deep trouble, and the elite can't get together and sit and talk about where we should be going as a country. You know, many years ago, I came as a young undergraduate in Nigeria to the United States when Jimmy Carter was running for president in 1986. And I recall how he described the state of things. He described it as a moral economy of a war. They were not at war, but he called the state of a moral economy of war. If you look at the insecurity in our country, if you look at the level of hunger in the land, I just saw statistics that suggest that more than 70% of people who live in rural Nigeria are in chronic poverty. Now, if you take all of that and politicians are quarreling over whether people are rushing to one party or the other, it's simple. Because the cost of governance is so high, because the political class appropriates so much of the commonwealth to themselves, the business of elite bargaining to share booty leads people to try and move to one particular party that is in control so that they can get their share of the booty. It's not a matter of whether somebody is destabilizing or not.
Yeah, I agreed. Sorry to interrupt, Prof. I agreed that the president, even though he's the president, he's also a politician. But the concern here is the appropriateness for a Democracy Day speech, for that aspect to become, to be necessary in a speech commemorating Democracy Day.
Well, because a lot of people are talking about it, and so the natural tendency for a politician is to respond to what he thinks is current in public opinion. So it doesn't really bother me whether it's appropriate or inappropriate.
All right.
What bothers me is that democracy is not as strong as it should be, and that we need to do something desperately.
Okay, I'll come back to you on some of the things that we need to do differently. But, sir, I also don't want to ask you about, democracy and how it's going and all of that. I want to talk about something more concrete, and that's the posthumous pardon that he gave to the Ogoni Nine, which is commendable, however you look at it. Long overdue, a lot of persons have said. But is the government doing enough about the situation in Ogoni land and the Niger Delta? In the last administration, I remember there was an attempt to restore some kind of order, but that seemed to have gone on the radar as well. Talk to us about that.
Okay. So when we take issues like the Ogoni Nine and all, you have a lot of grievances that hopefully now have begun to be put to rest. On the one hand, you will find people who will support it. On the other hand, you will find people who will not support it. But what the issue is that for as long as this had not been addressed, the Ogoni people and the Ogoni land as a place had always seemed to just struggle a bit. So it was necessary to address. And the first aspect of it, what the president has done in this instance, I think is commendable because it just puts to rest a long argument on both sides of, do I support it, don't I support it? Let's put that to rest so that the people can move forward. Now, there are people who feel that in all of this, in the struggle and all with Ogoni land, with Kensariwo on one side and the others on the other side, that this whole issue of has Ogoni oil been kept back for I don't know how many years and all of that, well over, it's going to 35 or 40 years. So I think the president has done the right thing as far as this issue is concerned. Now the next thing is how do we move forward? The Niger Delta as a whole requires a look into. And the reason being this, for many years, Niger Delta has been supporting the Nigerian dream, the Nigerian vision and all of that, but still feel, even today, that they are not as involved in the process that you call the new Nigeria, this Nigeria that we're trying to get to. And I think we need to begin to address some of those grievances of what minorities look like and how should they be involved in Nigeria's move forward. And that is the next step.
Yeah, before I move on to the Prof, I want to just ask, it's been 2 years since this administration has been in power. In your view, have they done enough to pay attention to the concerns of the Niger Delta, especially the cleanup aspect? Like I said, an attempt was made last year. Not last year, in the previous administration, but there hasn't been some real comments about what's going on in Niger Delta.
No. Okay. So one area that progress has been made, right, is that you're not having as much spills, as much what you call fire and all of that, and that is very important. So you don't have the black suit that is going on. So what the government has done in the last couple of years is ensure that illegal refining and all of those things have come, more or less, it's come down, and it's come down a lot. And that's what used to lead to the oil spills and the environmental degradation. Now, that is another 20-year project, and it's something that has to be done step by step. But the first thing is, can we stop all the illegal refineries and fire in the area? That they've been able to do.
All right, Prof, let me come to you. This is an area I believe you'll be able to talk to us a lot more. A bit of fact-checking here. The president in his speech expressed a lot of optimism about, the direction that the economy is going. In his speech, I'll try and see if I can quote, we're already seeing results. The GDP grew by 3.4% in 2024, with the fourth quarter hitting 4.6%, the highest quarter of growth in over a decade. Inflation is easing gradually, steadying the price of food staples like rice and beans. And then he went on to talk about how our foreign reserves have increased a five-fold and that the Nigerian naira exchange rate has stabilized. Is the president's stats representative of reality?
Well, long ago somebody said that, there are lies, there are damn lies, and there are statistics. What this means is that with statistics, you can say anything you want to say. The statements made are not necessarily incorrect. The question is, what goal are you pursuing? And how do these particular developments lead you towards the particular goal that you are pursuing? You see, the naked truth is that many African countries have focused on stabilization. You know, you get some barrage, some harassment about your exchange rate, your this, that. And that produces, usually, when you deal properly with stabilization, it does produce some results that look good. GDP begins to look, but you have to take a total picture. This is why, with all the stabilization we've done since SAP in Africa, we still have made very little progress. Poverty continues to cripple us. And part of the reason is because the elite that govern do not think of the whole country. They think of their transactions and their small clique. And the growth that is produced is ganashade, if you will, by them. I just said that I heard statistics that suggest that more than 70% of people who live in rural Nigeria are now living in chronic poverty. Now, you can have any statistic you want. If that is your reality, and it's easy to project that is what is happening, when you have header farmer clashes that have been so deep and so severe that in some parts of our country, people have not been to their farms in 5 years. Many of them have even forgotten how to farm. They don't have any other way of producing anything. So they have become, people who are dependent and are really living at levels that destroy their dignity as human persons. What I have not seen in strategy is a massive focus on how we create wealth and production involving the broad population. I've talked a lot about what you can do with ensuring security and then providing for agriculture that is returning very quickly and instantly and developing value chains and moving that forward. I don't see us exactly focusing on this. First and foremost, we have to deal with the insecurity problem. It is not something that fell from hell. It is something that was created by Nigerian politicians. The solutions are within us to make happen.
All right.
I think, however, we must begin with policing that is local, that is state, and so on, layers of policing. But the base level of policing must be the local community. When we get the local community to police the place officially with arms, with everything, then you can create clusters for production and so on and so forth.
I mean, the dream is always for things to be better, but your submission did raise some question that I would like, as a chieftain of the APC, I would also think it's appropriate to ask. The president's speech covered, for me, it could be other areas, I think the economy, politics, and honors. Those are the three major aspects. Correct. No mention was made of the security situation in this country. Do you think some acknowledgement of the pains that people in the Northeast, Northwest, and other parts of this country is going through would have been appropriate, more appropriate than trying to explain what is politics to the people?
Okay, so this insecurity has been with us for a very long time, and it has to be dealt with. And so I agree with you that a reference to security or insecurity would have been appropriate, and that would have been good. But I suspect, even as Pat said, Professor Utomi just said, that the security solution is a political solution, and I'll explain. What I see in the democracy of Nigeria moving forward and how we have to begin to work on what Nigeria should look like moving forward, right, is where you are having regional autonomy, okay, the South, because we're different tribes in Nigeria, and the way we operate in the North is different from how we operate in the South, is different from how we operate in the West. Policing and security is a lot more effective when you deal with it locally. What we're seeing here is an attempt to deal with security holistically from a national level, and I don't think it's going to work. And it's time that we have to begin to change this, both from the kinetic position and from just general...
But doesn't this give an impression that there doesn't seem to give, this administration doesn't seem to be prioritizing security as much as it is doing the economy? And then experts would argue that if there is insecurity, no matter what you do with the economy, it's still going to fall flat on its face.
So I don't know that they are not prioritizing security as much as the other administration was. What I do know is that you are seeing a lot more in terms of the military activity. We're not, I guess, and I've always said this, one of the shortcomings that we should do a lot more as an administration is communicate better. I think that in that area, there's a shortcoming. But as to what is going on and whether or not these activities against bandits and all of that is ongoing, I know from a personal perspective. I have friends who are in the military. I have friends who are out in the forefront. I have friends who are out in the forest. I know that this is continuing. It hasn't stopped. It hasn't stopped at all. Probably the administration has decided that they don't want to speak too much about it. I don't know. They would have to answer on that.
Fair enough. Prof, one more for you. You've been a very loud advocate of the people and the welfare and, of course, pushing democracy in this country. So I would want you to speak to Nigerians on this very important commemoration. What would be your key message? Let me know, put words. Just what would be your key message today to Nigerians as we brace up for another 2 years of this current administration and pushing our democracy?
Well, my contribution in this regard is that we should recognize that democracy is about the people. The government of the people, for the people, by the people, in the great old Lincolnian definition. There is a very unfortunate sense in many circles, including deep political research circles, that our democracy has become a government of politicians, for politicians, by politicians. That there is a disconnect between state and society. And that because this is the case, the people, kind of feel alienated from government. And there is a weaponization of poverty, which is their condition. And so I would like to see politics touch the people in terms of the quality of life they live, in terms of everything about the dignity of the human person. And if politicians can manage to think less of themselves, spend less of public resources on themselves and more on the people. I go back to this country. I don't want to go to 5 places and give example. In the 1960s in Nigeria, politicians were simple people. Members of the Federal House came from different places. Tonye is from Port Harcourt there. Onyeka used to talk about her father, who was a parliamentarian from there, was a school principal, and would come to Lagos and do his job and return to being a principal in an Itonia high school in Port Harcourt and feel the people, know what the people didn't have money. In fact, she used to joke that her father, as an MP, would come and borrow money from her mother, the trader. Unless we're able to feel the people and live the people, work for the people, democracy isn't working.
I guess I should just give you 30 seconds as well to give a quick message.
Okay, so I thank God for June 12th and what it means, but it also drives the point that since then till today, the type of democracy that we practice in Nigeria ought to change. And I think it's time that we look at our democracy and begin to make a democracy Nigeria style that works for Nigerians and for the people of Nigeria. We're not there yet.
Democracy Nigeria style. I like that. Thank you very much for speaking with us today.
You're welcome.
Prof, thank you as well for giving us your time. We appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.